Alrighty, we are back. As I was just explaining to the audience, I just started up the video recorder so that we can upload this to YouTube and other venues after the show. We came on the air just a few minutes before 7 o'clock, earlier than the normal time, because of an issue that has come up, and I will re-explain it for those of you in the audience that are just joining us and those of you that happen to be watching this recording on the YouTube channel. Our guest tonight is Alex Bachman. He is a very good friend of ours and has been on the show with our science producer, Boris Artemenko, before. The first time that Alex was on, maybe it was the first two times, we used our Skype voice over IP connection, and after a while the connection got real bad and we were disconnected. So the next time we thought we would just go ahead and use a regular phone number, and Alex used his voice over IP number. We were on the air for approximately an hour or so, if I recall correctly, and we were summarily disconnected once we got to some sensitive subjects. So tonight, we went landline to landline, like calling your neighbor, except Alex is a little bit farther away than the neighbor, but it's still a regular phone call. The clarity was excellent. It's a pure digital phone line. We were talking about what we're going to discuss on the show tonight. We were talking about a current event that happened very recently, over the past 72 hours. You know what that is. While I was talking to Alex over the phone, there was a loud hissing sound on the line, and a voice said, "No, no, no," and we were disconnected. That, ladies and gentlemen, is very disturbing to me, because at that point they were probably able to trace our phone line, so they know where our super secret location is. So we may have to do some various types of scrambling in the near future. I'll put it to you that way. Now, what we were going to talk about is something that has been on the internet. It has been on radio shows, and it is now coming to fruition. And again, Alex, if you're watching, if you're able to connect to the website and watch the stream, you have the landline number. You can go ahead and call the landline from your line of choice, and we will pick up the phone immediately. And you will be immediately on the air. Now, let me switch over to the talking points for the evening over here and see if we can get this to work. Let me see here. We're going to go like this, and then we are going to go like this and see if we can get into here. Apparently we have some software that has decided to have some fits. So let me see what I can do here. We're going to go ahead and stop that, and then we are going to go ahead and restart it, and we should be able to come back up here. So if you bear with me for just a second while we do that, I'll just go ahead and switch back to me so I can actually just go ahead and read it to you verbatim. If this does not come back up, let me see here. We'll just go over to here and make a couple of quick changes in the software that usually gets it up and running. I see our video stream is still working. And there we go. We're going to do that. Okay, now everything should work. And there we go. How do you like that? It always helps when you have practiced this thing. Here we go. I am going to now bring up the screen. My job is to do whatever it takes to wake people up one person at a time, and tonight we intend to wake up a whole bunch of you. Let's go back over to the screen. We have an article that was submitted to us by our erstwhile and missing guest, Alex Bachman. We're still waiting for his call. I suspect that he has been, how shall I say, tampered with down there at his location. I am not entirely surprised by that. Let's go over to his website. As you can see, I have done some graphical modifications like we usually do to the websites that we present on here. His website is alexanderbachman.com, and ABBA at alexanderbachman.com is the email address at his website. Let me get a good close-up there so that you can see what the website address and the email address is. Now, before I read this article to you, you can see the headline right there in the article. I'm going to go back here over to our show notes, and I am going to read an email that we got today from one of our assisting staff members. Here is the email. Well, the skeleton is coming out of the closet. No longer a hoax, and only those forewarned who are willing to save themselves are taking notice through the informal announcements, because the official ones are only going to be made to select elite groups like the families of top brass and so forth. Evacuation will attempt at an almost last minute to preserve a select few in proportion to the masses. We are not living in normal times. Let's only remember that an event of the Canary Islands, event of the proportion of the Canary Islands, and the Canary Islands, as you know from our previous shows, has a large landmass, the side of a mountain, essentially, that John DiNardo and I have talked about, that if it slides into the ocean, approximately 6 to 8 hours later, the east coast of the United States from Canada, all through the eastern seaboard, the parts of the Gulf of Mexico, the eastern side of Mexico, and South America will cease to exist. The tsunami that this would create would be, 500 feet tall, and would wipe out everything in its path. That is what our emailer is talking about. Let's only remember that an event of the proportions of the Canary Islands will give people no more than 6 to 8 hours time to try to escape from whatever vulnerable area they are in. The panic resulting at the time will probably also cause enough fatalities, but will clog up all ways and routes of escape to the nearest higher than 800 feet above sea level place. And ladies and gentlemen, I have an alert for you. They are attempting to shut off our electricity. Our electricity is now flipping on and off. We can get back on the air in about 15 minutes if we have to, if our power is taken out. They are apparently pretty serious about us not doing this broadcast. Now, this email continues on. The incoming waves will cause an initial brunt of disasters, but the outgoing ones will be the ones that claim the most lives. The African west coast closest to the Canaries will be the first and most violently hit. The Southern Europe countries will come next, but from 6 to 8 hours, the waves will have reached all of the east coast of the U.S. and South America. Not only will our major coastal megalopolies be severely disabled, but all centralized infrastructure plants and sites, but worse, the sparse populations along the coast, mostly at the sea level, and in small urban communities with few escape routes even for their lesser numbers. Unfortunately, most people simply refuse to believe or else remain in their comfort zones, accepting fatality as part of life instead of considering the alerts as a way of avoiding being victims. We will all sustain heavy losses of loved ones, friends, and family who could have avoided it if they had only had the courage to cut their roots with comfort zones that no longer are safe. Sometimes I wonder how responsible people are to bring children into the world at such a time and not care for what happens. Where is the sense of believing in a future and not ensuring one's own and their children's survival? But what to do with those who only believe when they have no way of escaping anymore? Signed, Boris Artemenko, our science producer. Perhaps Boris is watching, perhaps he is not. I see that we are still streaming to the server. We have not been taken off. We are, of course, recording in MP3 as well as on the video side. We have not received a call back from our guest, Alex Backman, so I can only assume he has been taken out of the picture for the evening, but we will soldier on. Now, this next portion of the show is an email that was sent out that I am sure is making its way across the internet. You may or may not have seen it. You may or may not have heard of it. I hang out at various conspiracy forums on the internet, and there has been little to no mention of this particular show. And not this show that I'm doing right here, but the show that I'm going to be talking about next. Now, you will see in this email that came along with Boris's email, because he sent it to me, and then we're going to get on to Alex's article in just a few minutes. This is from a gentleman by the name of John Moore. Now, another friend of ours, a Cliff High, one Cliff High. Hello, Cliff. How are you doing? I hope everything is going well with you. I hope you enjoyed the earthquake the other night out in your locale. Cliff does not buy into this. However, I know another Special Forces, retired, that says that this is the way they would do it, and hence has tentatively bought into it. I don't mean bought into it. I mean accepts it. How does that sound? That sounds better. Now, let me read this email to you. This may come as a shocker to a lot of people, and I suspect is going to cause a lot of emotional and physical trauma for yours truly in the near future once this hits the airwaves. So, here we go. We have had no additional power fluctuations, incidentally. So, hopefully that was just a warning, and they're going to let me go on with the show. This was sent Friday, 20 July 2012 at 12:59 a.m. Subject, forward, John Moore message, source confirmation of red dwarf flyby this summer and fall. And here is the prelude to it. I'm not going to tell you who sent me this email. I have scrubbed that out of the what you're seeing on the screen there. I don't like to give out dates, folks, but Planet X researcher Richard St. Laurent up in Canada persistently is maintaining that this brown dwarf star will conduct its perihelion maneuver by March of next year, I believe. Below is an alert that John Moore has issued today, and he never sends me anything or replies to 98% of my emails, so I must consider this to be extremely important. Also, it needs to be said that I have emailed John Moore. I asked him for some background information so that we could cover this with Alex Bachman and Boris Artemenko. He has not been forthcoming. So we have gathered as much information as we can for discussion. And again, we are still waiting for the possibility of Alex Bachman to call up on the landline. I know he has the landline number. I emailed it to you earlier today, Alex, in case you can't find it. Let's go back to the screen and go down to the email. This was sent Thursday, July 19th, 2012 at 7:27 and 59 seconds p.m. Subject, John Moore message for source confirmation of red dwarf flyby this summer and fall. July 18th, 2012. Ladies and gentlemen, comma. Quotation, no need for panic, end quotation, is the title of my paper I wrote in the fall of 2005, published in January of 2006. That is John Moore's paper. This note is a follow-up to my paper. Tuesday, July 10th. One of my private, trusted sources told me the following. And this is additional information if you have not heard it yet, but have only heard the original story. This gentleman overheard a conversation between a woman and her employer that she attended a classified briefing for spouses of DoD personnel that are part of COG, that is the Continuity of Government Contingency Planning. This constitutes 1 or 2% of all DoD personnel. So this is a muckety-muck, higher-up, super-duper meeting. Prior to the briefing beginning, she had to sign a non-disclosure agreement, which apparently she has now violated. During the briefing, she was told about Naribu, or Planet X Wormwood, the destroyer, and the soon-to-happen flooding of the Atlantic coast. She was shown a map that very closely resembled the map on my DVD showing flooding of North American coastal areas. And I believe this right here is very similar to the map that he is talking about right here. Now you can see, let me see, get my mouse going right here. Hopefully you can see my mouse there. There is my mouse along the eastern seaboard. That is the current seaboard. The green area that you see on this map is not, I repeat, not the present seacoast. Let me see if I can zoom in on this a little bit. There we go. Here is the adjusted map of the East Coast. Let's go in on this a little bit more here. And there we go. You can see where Charlton and Savannah are right now. You can see where Wilmington is right now, all the way down to St. Augustine, Daytona Beach. You can see West Palm Beach, Miami, Fort Myers, St. Petersburg, Tallahassee, Pensacola, Mobile, Biloxi. All of those areas in this map would be flooded. One would presume that this is the map that this person was showed. She was told to prepare for an evacuation order that would come soon. They were told to have as much as 2 weeks warning. They may have as much as 2 weeks warning. They may not. They were told they could bring one carry-on bag and one suitcase, and that they would abandon all other possessions and property. Hold on a moment. The phone is ringing. Let us see if this is our guest. Hello.
Skype is blocking Alex from calling in.
Okay, thank you. You're actually on the air right now.
I know. Bye.
Okay. We have another call coming in. Perhaps that is Alex. I thank you for the call. I kind of figured that was the case. We are going to continue on with the show and see if this is Alex on the other line. Thank you for the call. And let's see if the phone rings here. And missed call out of area. Well, that was one of our associates who is telling us that indeed Alex has been taken off. Let's see if this is our guest. Hello, this is Bill Zam.
Hey, Bill, this is Alexander Bachman calling.
Excellent. Alexander, how are you doing?
I'm very well. Fortunately, we could get back online here. It appears that our phone was being triggered by some form of electromagnetic interference that it did not allow it to connect to the line.
I don't know if you heard my description online.
Yes, I've been listening to it. Yes, I have.
Yes. No. And we were disconnected.
Yes, absolutely. It's normal. You know, we are having serious issues with respect to getting the truth out to the people that want to be informed. We know that the lamestream media does not want to cover the real facts at hand. Things are getting to the point, Bill, where we have to come out to the front lines and not cower down and start speaking, what's going on behind the scenes. And we know that the article that I just published that you're going to take a look at, and we can discuss it if you want, has to do, in part two, obviously, with the recent John Moore update, but also with some other information that is very important, because it's not only the fact that we're talking about a given date by Mike Harris, who's a colleague of John Moore over there at the RBN network, but it's also the fact that we have 5 sources now that don't know each other, that can confirm that these briefings to the spouses of top brass or selected DOD officers are being briefed. Spouses and family members are being briefed for an impending evacuation. So, I mean, how more real can you get? That's my question.
Not much more real. Let me finish reading this email, and then we're going to move right into your article. I'm going to repeat the previous paragraph that I was reading. She was told to prepare for an evacuation order that would come soon. They were told they may have as much as 2 weeks warning. They may not. They were told they could bring 1 carry-on bag and 1 suitcase, and that they would abandon all other possessions and property, which indicates an air evacuation to me. Monday, July 16th, this is John Moore speaking, in this email that we were all sent. Monday, July 16th, I had another private source in Homeland Security verify this information of the above-mentioned briefing. Today, I spoke with another source, Mr. Mike Harris. Mike is a fellow talk show host at RBN with the time slot following mine. Mike has a private trusted source who is a high-ranking member of a foreign intelligence agency. This source tells Mike that Naribu, Planet X, Wormwood, the destroyer, will make its closest passage to Earth, coming into our solar system on August 17th, 2012, and its closest passage outward bound on September 26th, 2012. That is less than 30 days from now. Mike has verified this intelligence with another private source, a former ranking member of the Reagan administration. All intelligence received so far points to an Atlantic Ocean event probably connected to the Canary Island risk of a landslide generating a tidal wave. And here is that map again that I was showing you guys just a few minutes ago of the East Coast. There it is. That's what it would look like if the Canary Islands collapsed and we had a big tidal wave. One of the things I learned in the U.S. Military Intelligence School, as well as being a criminal investigator since 1973, was to look for reliable sources who don't know each other giving the same information. Here, we have 4 reliable sources all saying the same thing. Alex is now saying that there is a 5th source that we are going to talk about right now. Alex is on the phone. His article at his website, alexanderbachman.com, is now up on the screen. It is entitled, "The Sumerian Gods Are Returning." Alex, take it away.
Thank you, Bill. Well, the article that we just published is the second part of an ongoing process of bringing out, and documenting what John Moore is doing. Because, as people that cover the real news, we have to also clarify that we need people to start documenting what's going on the free radio waves of America and the world. I mean, John Moore is going out on a limb here. This is not like him unless he would be absolutely sure of what's going on behind the scenes. John Moore is a very serious guy. I've been on the air with him, with Dr. Bill Deagle, on multiple times, so I know on the seriousness of his position, and when he speaks with authority and knowledge of what he is exposing. Now, the situation here, obviously, is a situation that eventually would come out sooner or later. And now I believe that that moment is here. Now, it could also be, I'm not saying it is, but we could have a COINTELPRO process going on where he's being used or manipulated in order to create or scare the population into believing that this is an impending. But you hear those little trackers on the phone, it's because we're being obviously monitored, and it's okay. We just want to tell the people in the intelligence agencies that might be monitoring this call and monitoring this program that don't be scared. What we're doing here is doing what should be done, which is basically telling the people to maintain their calm and to really analyze the facts before jumping on whatever bandwagon comes their way. Now, I'm not saying that John Moore is wrong. I'm just opening up the possibility that anything could be happening right now behind the scenes. But what we have now is not 1, not 2, not 3, 5 sources. One, the 5th source, and you probably know who I am talking about. I'm not going to mention